जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय दामोदरा जय दामोदरा दामोदरा जय दामोदरा जय विश्वगुरु शील प्रभुपदा विश्वगुरु शील प्रभुपदा जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद इस डिवाइन ग्रेस विश्वगुरु ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद इस डिवाइन ग्रेस शील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद इस डिवाइन ग्रेस शील गौर किशोर दास बाबा जी महाराज की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय श्री श्री कृष्णा रुक्मिणी सत्यभामा की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय विश्वगुरु शील प्रभुपाद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. So before we begin today's class, today being Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj's disappearance day, we'll read a little about Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. This is a first quote from Srila Prabhupada's letter written on 1st May 1969 to Dayananda. So far as your second question, Thakur Bhakti Vinod was not official spiritual master of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was already renounced order, Paramahamsa. But Thakur Bhakti Vinod, while he was even playing the part of a householder, was treated by Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj as preceptor on account of his highly elevated spiritual understanding. And thus, he was always treating him as his spiritual master. The spiritual master is divided into two parts, Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru. So officially, Bhakti Vinod Thakur was like the Shiksha Guru of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. In another lecture given on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verses 24 through 34, given on August 12, 1966 in New York, Srila Prabhupada said, "And you will be surprised that my Guru Maharaj's spiritual master was Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He was completely illiterate. He did not know how to sign, and my spiritual master was the most learned man of his age. He accepted that Guru who was completely illiterate. But when he would speak, that Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he would speak with all Vedic references." Again from a lecture given on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 7, verses 91 and 92, given on March 13, 1974 in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada said, "And Bhakti Vinod Thakur asked Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to accept Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj as his spiritual master, that you go and take your initiation from Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So he thought that I am a great scholar and I am son of a magistrate, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and great Vaishnava. He will be very much pleased to accept me." Of course, he was very much pleased, but in the beginning he refused. Because, of course, that is only show he was not proud just to teach us. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati explained that I was little proud, so I was thrice refused by Guru Maharaj, although he was the only disciple. In another lecture given in Mayapur on Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 26 on October 6, 1974, Srila Prabhupada again spoke about Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So one may question that your Guru Maharaj was sitting on the ground in a municipal lavatory. Because he did not like that anybody should disturb me, he was sitting by the side of municipal lavatory. Because so many people will come for darshan and ashirvad, he did not like it. He did not like to be disturbed by this ashirvad. You see, they will not take any spiritual instruction. They are thinking that here is a saintly person and he will bless me. So I have got now 1,000, I'll tell 10,000, that's all. Therefore they come. They do not come to take any spiritual instruction. Therefore it is botheration. So Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj did not like this botheration. He was sitting by the side of a municipal lavatory so that these rascals will not come out of the bad smell and will not disturb me. You see? So Maharaj Manindranandi, he had organized one Sankirtan festival. So he came to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj and to invite him. So after many requests, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj said, "Maharaj, you got many tenants. You are Maharaj. Why you are trying to make me your tenant? Because you are a rich man, you also want, as your tenants carries your order, so you also want me. So why you are?" "No, sir, no, you are my lord. Whatever you say, I shall carry out." "Will you carry out? Why not?" So he said, meaning Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he said to the king. So he said that, "Don't go home, sit down here, chant Hare Krishna." The king immediately fled away. Prabhupada laughs, you see. So he was very humorous also, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, that if you are so obedient, then I ask you, don't go home. Better give up your dress and chant Hare Krishna here. Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, The Son of Drona Punished, verse number 37. Swapranan yaha para pranaihi Swaprananya parapranaihi Swaprananya parapranaihi Prapushnati Agranaha Kalaha Prapushnati Agranah Kalaha Prapushnati Agranah Kalaha Tad Vadaha Tasya Hi Shreyaha Tadvadastasya Hi Shreyo Tadvadastasya Hi Shreyo Yad Doshat Yati Adhaha Puman Yad Doshat Yati Adha Puman Yad Doshat Yati Adha Puman Swaprananya parapranaihi Prapushnatyagrana Kalaha Tadvadastasya hi Shreyo Yaddoshadyati Adappuman Swaprananya parapranaihi Prapushnatyagrana Kalaha Tadvadastasya hi Shreyo Yaddoshadyati Adappuman
Swaprananya parapranaihi
Swaprananya parapranaihi
Prapushnati agrana kalaha
Prapushnati agrana kalaha
Tadvadastasya shreyo
Tadvadastasya hi shreyo
Yeddosatyati adapuman
Yaddoshadiyati adapuman
Swapranam yaha parapranahi Prapushnati agrana khalaha Tadvadastasya hi shreyo Yaddoshadhyati adha puman
Swapranaya parapranaihi Prapushnati agrana kalaha Tatvadastasya hi shreyo Yaddoshat yati adyapuman
Swaprananya parapranai Prapushnatyagrana kalaha Tadvadastasya hi shreyo Yaddoshadyatadapuman
Swapranan, one's own life. Yaha, one who. Parapranaihi, at the cost of others' lives. Prapushnati, maintains properly. Agranaha, shameless. Kalaha, wretched. Tadvadaha, killing of him. Tasya, his, he, certainly. Shreyaha, well-being. Yat, by which. Doshat, by default. Yati, goes. Adhaha, downwards. Puman, a person. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he will go down by his own actions. Kindly repeat. A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he will go down by his own actions. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A life for a life is just punishment for a person who cruelly and shamelessly lives at the cost of another's life. Political morality is to punish a person by a death sentence in order to save a cruel person from going to hell. That a murderer is condemned to a death sentence by the state is good for the culprit because in his next life he will not have to suffer for his act of murder. Such a death sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment offered to him. And it is said in the Smriti Shastras that men who are punished by the king on the principle of a life for a life are purified of all their sins, so much so that they may be eligible for being promoted to the planets of heaven. According to Manu, the great author of civic codes and religious principles, even the killer of an animal is considered to be a murderer because animal food is never meant for the civilized man, whose prime duty is to prepare himself for going back to Godhead. He says that in the act of killing an animal, there is a regular conspiracy by the party of sinners, and all of them are liable to be punished as murderers, exactly like a party of conspirators who kill a human being combinedly. He who gives permission, he who kills the animal, he who sells the slaughtered animal, he who cooks the animal, he who administers distribution of the foodstuff, and at last, he who eats such cooked animal food are all murderers, and all of them are liable to be punished by the laws of nature. No one can create a living being despite all advancement of material science, and therefore no one has the right to kill a living being by one's independent whims. For the animal eaters, the scriptures have sanctioned restricted animal sacrifices only, and such sanctions are there just to restrict the opening of slaughterhouses and not to encourage animal killing. The procedure under which animal sacrifice is allowed in the scriptures is good both for the animal sacrificed and the animal eaters. It is good for the animal in the sense that the sacrificed animal is at once promoted to the human form of life after being sacrificed at the altar, and the animal eater, Shri Krishna Rukmani Satyabhama ki. It is good for the animal in the sense that the sacrificed animal is at once promoted to the human form of life after being sacrificed at the altar, and the animal eater is saved from grosser types of sins, eating meats supplied by organized slaughterhouses, which are ghastly places for breeding all kinds of material afflictions to society, country, and the people in general. The material world is itself a place always full of anxieties, and by encouraging animal slaughter, the whole atmosphere becomes polluted more and more by war, pestilence, famine, and many other unwanted calamities. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namavom Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham mande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Yesterday, someone sent me a message forwarded. Nowadays there are a lot of forwarded message you get by WhatsApp. So this was a story about a woman of Indian origin by name Vasanti. So this Vasanti has narrated her story, and that has been forwarded as a WhatsApp. Her picture is also there. And this lady, Vasanti, was born in Uganda. Her parents were originally from India. But, during the British rule, the Britishers had colonized vast portions of the world. So this lady, her parents had long back shifted to Uganda. They had started some business there, and they had settled there. And when this girl was about 14 years old, although India got independence from the Britishers in 1947, Uganda got freed from the British rule only in about 1962 or 63, something like that. So, and immediately after the British left Uganda, there was some elections and somebody became a ruler, president or whatever and all that. But in 1971, whoever was the president was overthrown by a coup, military coup. And one person called Idi Amin, he became the dictator and president. He was a military man. So in 1971, when this man, Idi Amin, he became the dictatorial president of Uganda, he saw that, very much like what is happening in America today, he saw that 90% of the businesses in Uganda were controlled by Indian-born people of Indian origin. They were all Ugandans, but people of Indian origin. They were controlling all the businesses, they were prospering, they were doing well. And most of the native Ugandans were all tribals and they were not doing so well. But percentage-wise, if you see, not so many. So in 1972, he issued a decree. He said, all Indians, you have to vacate Uganda. You have to go out of India. You have to go out of Uganda. If you stay within Uganda, you will be persecuted. And he was known to be a very, very, very cruel and very ruthless dictator. He ruled Uganda between 1971 and 1979, I think, about 7 or 8 years, maybe 72 to 79, 71 to 79, yeah, about 8 years. So during those 8 years, he came to be known as the Butcher of Uganda. Because during that 8 years, there are estimates that about 500,000 people were butchered by him. You can imagine that. And many of his very, everywhere you go, there will be opposition. Most of his prominent people who opposed him, he would get them killed and he would drink their blood and eat their flesh. He's rumored like that, that kind of man he was. So 1972, when he issued this decree, normally all the Indians got frightened. If we stay back, we'll be finished. So all of them left Uganda and many of them went to different parts of the world. And so this Vasanti says her parents, she was at that time 14 years old in 1972. So she says her parents decided to move to Britain. And they all shifted to Britain and parents settled there. They did well there also, hardworking, and they managed to fit into the society in London, and they did well. And she also did her education in nursing. She became a nurse. And then over a period of time, she worked in various hospitals, and finally she landed up in Saudi Arabia in about 2002, 2003. And she was working as a nurse in Saudi Arabia. And suddenly one day she got a call. She was at home, or I don't know where in the hospital or whatever. She got a call from her hospital where she was working in Saudi Arabia that we got one very important guest. You have to immediately come. He needs urgently dialysis. The kidneys have failed. Dialysis is required. So you have to urgently come. He's very important. She said, okay, I'm coming. And by the time she reached office, already people were calling, where are you? This, that, doctors are rushing in. So she was thinking, who is this important guest who is coming? And then she got to know the patient who was coming was Idi Amin. She was shocked. And her heart started beating faster, The guy from whom we all were so frightened and ran away, he's coming now. Whole body was trembling. And finally they brought him in a wheelchair, and he was lying down, and the doctor called her, come, let us take him to the ICU. His vitals were all not stable, so they took him to the ICU, stabilized him. Then they told her, now you go and do the dialysis. And she was like shaking from head to toe. My God, Idi Amin, now I have to go and administer dialysis for him. Somehow she mustered some courage and went up to the ICU. And ICU normally, others are not allowed. So suddenly she found she is all alone with Idi Amin. And suddenly this Idi Amin caught her hand. And she was like, oh my God, she almost had a heart attack. He caught her hand and he said, please, please save me. So then she composed herself for a second. Then she told, do you know who I am? I am one of those thousands of people you drove out of Uganda in 1972. All those Indians, I am one of them. And she says, his eyes immediately opened up and his eyes were filled with fear. Then she said, don't worry, I'm not going to harm you. I'll try to help you to the best of my ability. And she says she administered dialysis and his condition improved and all that. And then, although his condition improved in the hospital itself, a few days later, he developed some sort of, some complication. When you have people who are old and they have already kidneys have failed and all that, anytime their immunity levels will be low and all these kind of things. So he developed some complication. And that complication was such that the skin started peeling off from the body. And she says, like you remove your socks, like that skin was coming out of his legs. And it's extremely painful, that situation, that whatever that condition is, medical condition is, it is said to be extremely painful. And because of that pain, she says, Idi Amin went into coma. And although he went into coma, the pain was so intense, even in coma, his body was writhing and twitching out of that pain. And finally, after suffering for several days, he died. And so she says, he got what he deserved. For the amount of cruelty he did, he suffered in this very life. So you see, Idi Amin became the ruler of his country. He became and when it is said that when he took over the position as the dictator, as the president in 1971, people on the streets were all cheering, oh, now Idi Amin, new person has become president, now everything will become great. But what happened? He unleashed a reign of terror. And along with that, the entire economy collapsed, people started suffering. So within 8 years, they were all praying for him to go. And somehow he got deposed and somebody else, some other military guy came and overthrew him, and that's how he went into exile into Saudi Arabia. And that's how this lady finally, Vasanti, met him and he passed away there. So you see, as a king, he became a king. He became the undisputed ruler. The entire military was with him. What all he could have done so many good things. But what did he do? He chose to terrorize the very people whom he was ruling. So, if you look at the Vedic scriptures state that a king should rule the citizens, treating them like his own children. He should take such good care of them. But here we see somebody becomes a king, a ruler of an entire country, but he, instead of taking care of the citizens, he starts torturing them, he starts persecuting them, and this is not the first time in history. In human history, this has happened many times. And you will see there are many people, Adolf Hitler and so many people like that, who all became kings, undisputed rulers, and they, instead of taking care of the citizens, they really persecuted and created mass suffering for the people. Many people like that. Joseph Stalin was another such very ruthless dictator. There was, like I mentioned, Adolf Hitler, and so many people like that. So the question comes, why do people do like this? When they have power in their hand, instead of doing good to people, they can use that same power to do so much beneficial activities for the people. But instead, they end up creating distress for others. And in today's verse is spoken by Lord Krishna himself in the context of Ashwatthama having released the Brahmastra. He killed the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas, and then he released the Brahmastra to protect himself to kill Arjuna. And after Arjuna countered the Brahmastra and he captured Ashwatthama as a prisoner, after capturing him, binding him, tying him down like an animal, then Krishna is speaking these words. And Krishna is saying, telling Arjuna, do not show mercy by releasing this Brahmabandhu, relative of a Brahmana, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. And Krishna explains the rules, the rules of fighting. Fighting was there even in the Vedic times. Fighting is there even in the modern times. Even you can see war is going on between Ukraine and Russia, war is going on between Israel and the Hamas, and so many places. And the US is bombing Venezuela. All these kind of things are going on. So, but then the difference between the wars that were fought during the Vedic times and in modern days, Krishna explains in the previous verse. A person who knows the principles of religion, a person who fights on the basis of dharma, does not kill an enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid, or devoid of his chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul. So there used to be rules according to which the wars used to be fought in the ancient times. Modern day, the fighting, Prabhupada says in one place, the modern day wars are fought just like cats and dogs fight. No rule or regulation, just bite, scratch. Wherever you get, you attack. And whomever you get, you attack. Don't bother about whether women, children, old people, innocent people, civilians, army people. Whomever you get, you attack and kill. This is like fighting of cats and dogs. This is not real fighting of, like human beings have to fight. You know, human beings, when they do anything, they have to do it in a civilized manner. Whether it is eating, sleeping, you don't expect human beings to sit and eat in some culvert, under some culvert, in some drainage and all those kind of things like animals do. Human beings will sit inside some room or a house or at least under a tree, have a proper neat and clean place. So whether it is eating, sleeping, mating, defending, all these 4 activities human beings are supposed to do in a civilized manner, not like animals. But anyway, modern day has become like that. So after mentioning these things, that fighting also has to be done in a civilized manner, and because Ashwatthama has violated those principles, therefore Krishna is saying he has become an Atatine. And an Atatine, and what kind of Atatine? A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives. What did he do? Ashwatthama do? He killed the sleeping sons of the Pandavas. And not only that, when he saw Arjuna was approaching him to fight with him, he released the Brahmastra without knowing how to retract it. So, for the sake of his life, he was ready to put the whole universe at risk. Because the Brahmastra is so powerful, the entire universe can be finished. So, a person who is cruel and wretched like this, who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives, desires to be killed for his own well-being. Such a person should not be shown any mercy. This is Krishna's his verdict. So you can see how the religious codes state that anybody who lives at the cost of others' lives, who lives by giving trouble to others, who lives by persecuting others, who lives like Idi Amin and all those dictators, they are not worthy of living. They should immediately be killed. So religious codes are there. Human beings, even without these religious codes, even today, the modern day world, they all condemn, dictators like Idi Amin, because of the kind of mass destruction and mass misery they have unleashed upon human beings, upon their own citizens, not even against any kind of enemies. So, although the mass of the people, the vast majority of the people, they understand that one should not persecute others, one should not create trouble for others. And there may be dharmic codes, religious principles also, which which do not allow for these kind of activities. But still you will see, there will be an Idi Amin, there will be an Osama bin Laden, there will be terrorist, camps, there will be countries who will be promoting terrorism, supporting terrorism. All these kind of things happen. So the question is why? Common sense also says a ruler should not do this. Dharmic codes also say you should not do this. And everybody knows what is the end of such people. Eventually they will be killed. They will have to die a terrible death. They will have to die a violent death. This is time and again in history we have seen. Despite all this, still there will be people who will become rulers or they will become terrorists who will persecute their own people and cause vast amount of suffering for others. So the question comes, why? The answer, in the 5th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, there is a description of the activities of Rishabhadeva. Rishabhadeva is an incarnation of Krishna. Now, Rishabhadeva ruled over the earth, and he had 100 sons headed by Bharat Maharaj. So after the sons had grown up, headed by Bharat Maharaj, Rishabhadeva decided to take sannyas. Because in the Vedic civilization, that's a standard thing. Panchasha urdhvam manam brajet. Once one reaches 50 years of life, one has to hand over everything to his children and he has to leave for the forest. Rishabhadeva decided to take up sannyas. And therefore, because he was a king, he decided to hand over the kingdom to his sons, headed by Bharat Maharaj. So Rishabhadeva, when he was handing over the kingdom to his sons, he advised them. Naturally, even today's world, if you see, there is some businessman and he is retiring. He will hand over the company, the business, to his son or to his daughter, who is going to be his successor. And normally, when people hand over their business or their whatever empire, everything to their children, what will they say? Nalla paathukopa, poruppa paathukono, ella olunga paathu. நான் இதெல்லாம் ரொம்ப உழைச்சி செஞ்சு நான் இவ்வளோ கஷ்டப்பட்டு நான் இவ்வளோ இந்த நிலைமைக்கு கொண்டு வந்திருக்கேன். இதை நீ மெயின்டைன் பண்ணிட்டு போ, இல்லாட்டி இதை இம்ப்ரூவ் பண்ணு. ரைட்? with great hard work I built up this whole business or this political party, whatever it is. And I have done a lot of hard work. So I'm handing this over to you. Take care of this in a very responsible way. And ensure that it grows, it enhances and all these kind of. This is what normally people say, right? Now you can imagine Rishabhadeva is handing over the rulership of the entire earth to his sons. So what did he tell his sons? What did he tell, especially Bharat Maharaj? What did he tell his sons who are going to rule over the world? Did he tell them, see, you have to rule very dharmically, you have to take care of all the citizens, you have to increase the economic development, you have to do, make in India all over the world. Did he do all those things? You should increase the GDP. Rishabhadeva, surprisingly, did not say any of these things. What he said, Noonam pramattaha kurte vikarma yed indriya preetaya apranoti na sadhu manye yata atmano yam. Na sadhu manye yata atmano yam. So he said, Rishabhadeva said, my dear sons, he said, Noonam kurute vikarma yad indriya preetaya apranoti. Because of indriya preeti, because of wanting to engage in sense gratification, Noonam kurute vikarma, a person engages in all kinds of sinful activities. So Rishabhadeva hit the nail on the head. He went to the root of the problem. So why do people become rulers and then they become despots, they become fanatics, they become they become tyrants and they start persecuting their own people. Although they have all the power in their hand, instead of doing good, they end up doing bad for the people. Why? Because indriya pritaya apranoti, because they are absorbed in their sense gratification. So anybody becomes absorbed, anybody who makes it a goal in his life to enhance his sense gratification, what will happen? He will eventually, some way or the other, he will end up engaging in different kinds of sinful activities and giving trouble to others. So, you see, a terrorist also, what he will do, he will go and kill so many people. And he will say, if you ask him, why are you doing this? He will tell, I will go to heaven, I will go to paradise, and I will be able to enjoy there. So, for his enjoyment, he is putting others to trouble. He doesn't think for a moment, what is the use of my enjoying at the cost of others? Like Krishna is saying here, a cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives desires to be killed. So, a person who is blinded by the desire for his own sense gratification, he will never see anything wrong in taking even others' lives as long as he is happy. So, in the modern day world, people will say if one human being kills another human being for a sense gratification, they will condemn it. They will say, no, this is not acceptable. We all human beings should be able to gratify their senses. This is the understanding. So, in the end, what happens? They may have various kinds of the governmental rules, regulations. People may have corporate social responsibility. People will do a lot of charity. They will open all kinds of non-governmental organizations, NGOs to help others. All these things they will do. And although they do all these things, eventually what they will do? They will also engage in maintaining big slaughterhouses for killing animals. And they will say, what is there? Killing animals, eating animals, it's a food choice. If somebody likes to eat meat, allow him. What is there? After all, it's an animal. But Prabhupada is saying in the purport, according to Vedic civilization, even if somebody kills an animal, he is also considered a murderer. As Krishna is saying, Swapranan yaha parapranaihi prapushnati agranaha kalaha. What words Krishna is using to describe these kind of people? Agranaha, one who is shameless. Kalaha, one who is wretched. He will live at the cost of others' lives. Parapranaihi, others' lives. Krishna is not saying other human beings. Krishna is saying others' lives. One who lives at the cost of others' lives. Meaning it includes even animals and even plants, trees, all kinds of living entities. If somebody lives to engage in sense gratification, and for his sense gratification, he is taking the lives of others, then he is a wretched person and he is a cruel person. Such a person he does not deserve to live. This is Krishna's verdict. So, when one's goal and center of life becomes sense gratification, eventually, although one may have very good intention, one may try to help other human beings, all these things one may do, but eventually he'll end up creating misery for other living entities. Even if he helps other human beings, he'll end up creating misery for other animals. And so therefore, na sadhu manye, therefore, Rishabhadeva tells his sons, I don't agree, I don't consider this to be the activity of an intelligent human being. An intelligent human being should not give suffering to any other living entity, including human beings as well as animals. So then the question comes, if doing all kinds of charitable activities, being good to others, not harming other human beings, helping other human beings, if we are saying even this will end up causing misery for others, then how do we ensure that a person becomes free from all such sinful propensities? That again Rishabhadeva tells his sons. He says that Parabhavastavadaboda jato yavanna jijnasat atma tattvam yavat kriyas tavadidam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. He said the alternative to live a life of sense gratification. One is a life which is centered around sense gratification, and modern day world especially, people don't know a life other than sense gratification. If you tell them, if you live a life of sense gratification, if you live a life where you want to become happy, then you will end up giving misery to others. Maybe human beings, maybe animals, maybe plants, whatever it is. So if you tell that, then they will say, what is wrong in my wanting to become happy? What is wrong if I want to have a nice family? What is wrong if I want to earn a little money and have some luxuries in life? What is wrong in this? I'm not harming other human beings. I like to eat a little meat. I go to the shop and I buy and eat what is there. I'm not going and cutting the throat of any animal. So in an organized way, we are doing it nicely. What is wrong in this? A person may ask. Why? Because the people don't have an understanding that there is an alternative way of living life. That the purpose of life is not sense gratification. There is some other higher purpose to the human form of life. And so therefore, Rishabhadeva says, Parabhavastavad abodha jato. Everyone is abodha jata in this material world. Everyone is born into ignorance. Nobody is born carrying a PhD degree in his hand, isn't it? Nobody is born saying that, quoting wonderful shlokas or quoting all kinds of mathematical formulas. Nobody is born like that. Even Albert Einstein was not, he did not take birth quoting E is equal to mc square formula, right? He also was born ignorant, illiterate. He went to school, he went to college, he had to learn what is ABCD 1, 2, 3. Everybody is like that in this material world. In this material world, everybody is born ignorant. Abodha jataha. And what do we think? Although we may be born ignorant, we go to school, we go to college, we learn medical science, we learn physics, mathematics, chemistry, and we become educated. But what is Rishabhadeva saying? Parabhavastavad abodha jato. Yavanna jijnasata atma tattvam. As long as you do not inquire about spiritual subject matter, as long as you do not inquire who is Krishna, who is the absolute truth, who is the supreme personality of Godhead, who am I, what is my relationship with Him, what is the purpose of my life, what is the purpose of my existence, as long as we do not inquire into these things, parabhavastavad, until such time, whatever education you may get in this material world, it is all a failure only. Parabhavaha. It will only lead to failure. You will never be successful. Yavat kriyas tavadidam manovai. As long as you are engaged in kriya, as long as you are engaged in sense gratificatory activities, somebody may say, no, what is there? This man, he has become a very big actor, become so famous, and this man has become the world's richest man. Another man has become the president of the United States. He has become the world's most powerful man. Another man, he has become a great scientist. He has invented the nuclear bomb by which you can destroy an entire nation. So these are all people who have achieved a lot of things, and you are saying all their achievements, everything, their whole life is a defeat. So what is wrong with what achievements they had done? So Rishabhadeva says, Yavat kriyas tavadidam manovai karmatmakam. As long as you are engaged in activities of sense gratification, as long as you are engaged in fruitive activities, activities by which I will get something to benefit myself, some sort of happiness I'll get, some sort of sense gratification I'll get, as long as you are engaged in these kind of activities, yena sharira bandhaha, the state of mind of such a person whose all actions are directed towards sense gratification, he is called, that state of mind of that person is called karmatmakam. Karmatmakam means he has a fruitive mentality. And as long as one is nurturing a fruitive mentality, sharira bandhaha, he will get chained to a body, to a material body, meaning he will have to repeatedly take birth and death within this material world. And repeated birth and death and repeated activities of nunam pramattaha kurute vikarma. Like a madman, we will engage in all kinds of sinful activities. So you see, this is a vicious cycle. When our mind is in that fruitive mentality, karmatakam, we will be impelled to engage in sinful activities, and we will be forced to take repeated birth and death within this material world. And when we take repeated material births, material body, again and again we will engage in sinful activities for our sense gratification, and we will continuously keep creating misery for others as well as for ourselves. So instead of such a life, Krishna is saying, better is such a person whose only goal in life is sense gratification, better to kill him. Why? Because if he lives, he is going to create trouble, misery for himself in his next life, and he is going to give trouble and misery for other people in this life also. And so therefore Prabhupada is saying in the purport, you see, interestingly, Prabhupada is saying, such a death sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment. Today there are so many activists who say that, oh, capital punishment should be abolished. We don't have the right to take another's life, blah, 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 all those kind of people. And Prabhupada is saying, capital punishment is the lowest punishment for a murderer. Any kind of murderer. Why? Because if he is allowed to live, he will create trouble, he will give misery to others. And when he goes on giving misery to others, in his next life he is going to increase the volume of suffering that he has to undergo. Better if you kill him now, all his reactions will be finished. Next life he will start a fresh page. So better. So fact is that as long as we have even a little desire for sense gratification, even if we are dharmic, very religious, very charitable minded, very noble minded, very moral and ethical principles we follow, even if we have all such so-called good qualifications in the material world, if we have even a slight tinge of a desire for sense gratification, eventually we'll end up engaging in some sinful activity or the other. And therefore, parabhavas tavad abodha jato. It is not enough to for somebody to say, okay, I understood spiritual subject matter, I understood I am a spirit soul, so I'll do some devotional activity also, and some sense gratification also I will do. What is wrong? No. Prabhupada says that unless one becomes akinchana, kinchana means something, some little bit sense gratification I'll keep for myself, and I will also do devotional service to Krishna. Unless you become akinchana, you cannot become freed from the cycle of karmatmaka, from the karmatmaka mentality, from the fruity mentality. And as long as you do not give up that fruity mentality, what will happen? You will continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death within this material world. So we have to become akinchana. So when we say akinchana, you have no desire other than only executing the mission of one's spiritual master. That's the only desire in your life. Srila Prabhupada is my Diksha Guru. He is my spiritual master. My life is dedicated to serving his mission. I have no other purpose in life. Unless one comes to this point, one cannot become freed from the cycle of birth and death. So somebody may say, how can somebody become like this, akinchana? It's impossible. To give us confidence that yes, it is possible, great pure devotees descend from the spiritual world into the material world. One of such akinchana examples is Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, whose disappearance day we are all observing today. Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was an akinchana. He had nothing in his life, only serving Krishna. You can imagine, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va. He was a businessman. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, in his previous life, he was a businessman. And he gave up that business, na dhanam. And he also gave up his wife and family, na sundarim kavitam. Not only that, and he became a spiritualist. And nowadays you will see, there are some spiritualists, so-called spiritualists, who have become very famous. And there are people in Vrindavan especially, and hordes of people go to them. And in the night, they will go for a walk around Vrindavan, and there will be thousands of people following them. And they will have a katha, and they will go to a ground, and thousands of people will come and hear them. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was such an akinchana, na dhanam, na sundarim kavitam, na janam. He said, I will not take any disciples also. He refused to initiate anybody. So many people approached him, but he would not give initiation to anyone. Not only initiation, any sadhu in India, Any person sees a sadhu, he'll immediately go and touch his feet and say, Ashirwad dijiye Babaji, right? That's standard thing. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj said, I don't even want to give this one Ashirwad to anyone. He went and sat next to a municipal lavatory, a latrine. India especially, you see, of course in the West you go, even a lavatory will be like a 7-star. You can put a bed and you can sleep there. But India, it is not like that. It will be unclean, it will be stinking, it will be dirty. He went and sat next to a public latrine. Why? So that people will say, oh, what a stinking place. This man is sitting there, I'll not go there. Akinchana, he did not want even followers. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. One has to become an akinchana like this. So, externally, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj might have been, like we read from what Prabhupada said about him. Externally, he might have been illiterate. He did not even know how to sign his name. He might have been illiterate. He might have been sitting next to a latrine and chanting Hare Krishna. So externally, people, when they would see these kind of things, they might have thought, what is this man? He is not some really advanced Babaji. Babaji means he must have thousands of followers. He must be giving Ashirwad left, right and center. And he must be giving big lectures. People normally think like that. And when they see people dressed like this, and with so many, surrounded by so many followers, people will all get, oh, this man must be a big sadhu. But look at Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, polar opposite of that. No disciples, no followers, refuse to give Ashirwad to anyone, going and sitting next to a latrine. So, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to show people, to demonstrate people the exalted position of Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, went and took Diksha from him. Although Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the foremost scholar of his time, he was such a big scholar, he wrote a treatise on the astrology, which came to be known as Surya Siddhanta. And that is how I think he got his name, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So such a great scholar he was. And here is Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, doesn't even know how to sign his own, this one name. He doesn't even know how to put a signature. And he went and took Diksha from him. So these are all incredible examples of exalted Vaishnavas, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who have descended to the material world from the spiritual world to set an example how an akinchana has to be. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. A person may give up dhana, he may give up his wealth. Na sundarim kavitam, he may give up his family also. And he may become a sannyasi. But he cannot give up janam, he cannot give up followers. But look at Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So renowned, so akinchana he was, that he refused to accept even any person as his disciple. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, foremost scholar of his time, he is going, and he is the son of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, magistrate. To become a magistrate in the British government was not an ordinary thing. Even today, a magistrate comes means he's a quasi-judicial authority. He has the authorities like a court. So if magistrate comes even today, even the police, everybody will stand up. He's a magistrate is a highly respected position even today. In the Britishers' time, very rarely Indians would get that position, because Britishers wanted their people to be all in all the rulership positions. But sometimes some very distinguished people they would allow. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur was like that. He was one of the very few Indians who became a magistrate. So you can imagine, his son is coming and asking for Diksha. And what was Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj's response? Did he become very, happy that, oh yes, magistrate's son has come. Now I'll become very famous. Like recently somebody put a, in the social media, there was a news getting circulated. One ex-WWE wrestler, and he was in some big post somewhere. He gave up that and became a Babaji and follower of some spiritualist. And that is making a lot of rounds. Everybody is saying, oh look, our Babaji is so powerful, even such a great person has become his disciple. So you can imagine Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur coming to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, offering, I want to become your disciple. What is Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj saying? Nothing doing, I don't want any disciple, go. Not once, not twice, thrice. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj refused. No. Finally, of course, he accepted. Why? Because he was setting an example. Not that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was unqualified or in any manner. But Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj wanted to set that example through this Leela of refusing Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur thrice. How akinchana we have to be. Na dhanam, na janam. One has to give up the desire for followership. So unless one gives up this desire for name, fame, money, followers, family, all these things, unless we come to that stage of akinchana, one cannot go back to Godhead. This is the example, and it is possible to become an akinchana like that, which is the example set by great personalities like Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, as well as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as well as our own spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Even Prabhupada for that matter. Whole life akinchana. He had no desire other than to serve Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's instruction. Prabhupada was not after followers, after money, after name, fame, nothing. He simply wanted to execute the order of a spiritual master. That is all. That is the standard of devotional service we have to execute if we want to go back to Goloka Vrindavan. Because everybody in Goloka Vrindavan is of that characteristic. They are of that quality. So unless we elevate ourselves to that quality, and it is possible. Why? Because our own spiritual master, our Diksha Guru, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he is such an akinchana. So if we become his disciples, naturally, we will also have to follow in his footsteps. We can also become akinchana like him by his blessings. So therefore, these we have to take inspiration from the lives of Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, even Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Although he was the most elevated scholar of his time, and although he was the son of magistrate, he, without any consideration, he went and offered himself to subordinate himself to Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He did not think, oh, I am a big scholar, how can I take Diksha from an illiterate person? He had no such qualms. Straight away went and offered himself to Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. This is akinchana. This is another characteristic of an akinchana. So all these examples are there right in front of our eyes to inspire us and to set the standard that we have to achieve in order to be able to go back to Godhead. And it is not impossible. It is very much possible if we please the spiritual master, if we please Srila Prabhupada by following his instructions rigidly, then we can also become akinchana by his blessings. Otherwise, what will the end result be? Swaprananya parapranai prapushnati agrana kalaha. We will become agrana and kala. We will become shameless and wretched, living our life swaprana parapranai, living our life at the cost of others' life. Eventually it will come to that. So if you want to avoid becoming a wretched person, if you want to avoid becoming a shameless person, if you want to become a true human being, then we have to follow in the footsteps of such great exalted Vaishnavas in our parampara. We have to become attached to following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, and by that we become akinchana. Then we can avoid coming into the position of Ashwatthama. So we'll stop here. Grantara Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. One small announcement. Today, because it is Ekadashi, we are having the 108 Japa Yajna. So those who are fasting, because today is Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj's appearance day, those who are fasting, you can proceed to Sanatana Hall to resume your chanting. Morning 5:15 to 7:15, we have already done 16 rounds. Next, we will start with, we will go to the Sanatana Hall and we'll resume our chanting. And we will break at 12 o'clock to come back here, do Aarti for Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Then we'll go back and we'll continue our chanting, our Japa Yajna. Let us try to finish 108 rounds today. Possible if we all set aside all our other activities and chant our rounds. All those who do not have any specific services, all of you are requested to come to Sanatana Hall and resume your chanting. So, हरि नाम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल।